In January 2003, my wife and I found ourselves on the Oprah Winfrey Show for, of all things, moving back to my hometown of Pittsburgh.
Asking yourself, what should I do with my life? The answer is not always to make a drastic career change. Carl Kurlander was on the right track when he set out to become a writer. He discovered he was in the wrong place, though, writing in the wrong voice.
Now you're asking yourself, how does a guy like me end up on Oprah? Well, let me take you back. It all began when I wrote a short story in college that eventually launched my career as a screenwriter with the movie St. Elmo's Fire. I thought I would go on to write stories of my generation, but instead I ended up writing sitcoms for teens. So there I was. I had famous neighbors like David Schwimmer, Richard Simmons, and Bud Bundy. And I was living the Hollywood life. But we were raising my 2-year-old daughter above the Sunset Strip. And as my wife pointed out to me, in a few years, her habit of dancing naked on coffee tables in that neighborhood could become an acceptable profession.
The key is to live an authentic life. And you didn't feel authentic, did you not, when you were...
in Hollywood? I don't know how that happened.
So when I got a job offer to teach screenwriting at the University of Pittsburgh, I jumped at the chance. They say you can't go home again, but I did. We literally moved to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. We bought a house right between where Fred Rogers had taped his show for 30 years and where he'd raised his own family.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine?
I reacquainted myself with old friends and made new ones. My wife and I were getting along better than ever, and our daughter Campbell was thriving.
In Pittsburgh, even.
Yes, it was all like a movie. Of course, in real life, there's no such thing as a Hollywood ending. Happiness comes with a price tag.
You know, you left California in order to downsize and lower your nut. I have to tell you, I was shocked to see your property taxes have tripled. What's going on with Pittsburgh? Do they know what they're doing?
I asked myself the same question and did a little digging. I found out that my hometown had declared itself financially distressed. Turns out that Pittsburgh, like so many other cities across America, was going bankrupt. Like I would be soon if I didn't make things work here. A once great industrial giant had now lost half its population. It seemed like both Pittsburgh and I were going through a midlife crisis. You kept having the fantasy of moving to the Valley.
And you had the fantasy of moving to Pittsburgh and teaching.
I never thought I was going to act about the fantasy. You know, I've had fantasies about Pamela Anderson. I don't act on them. But I'll be honest with you. I care about the money, and I am scared out of my wits. Because I just don't want to have my family not be able to pay its bills. And I wanted to have them have just a nice life. We don't have to live in the Taj Mahal. We don't have to live in Beverly Hills. But I wanted to have a nice life, and I am scared. You know,
I'd like to point out that what I'm doing here is, like, I was hired to shoot an interview that Carl was going to have with her. And I'm sitting here with my teeth in my mouth with her face on the picture, holding this heavy thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Minute after minute, you just spout about one damn thing after another.
Okay, I'll try to focus more. I'm sorry.
Pittsburgh town is a smoky old town now. Pittsburgh.
What do you got the name of the movie now?
A Tale of Two Cities.
Tale of Two Cities? Oh!
For Dickens.
Yeah, but Dickens, you know, didn't even have a DVD player. This will never be seen. We already have more people working on this than we'll go to it.
What did Jones and Lachlan steal now? Pittsburgh.
Carl?
Yes, I know.
What are you doing? Dicking around as usual.
Pittsburgh town is a smoky old town. What?
Don't come back to Pittsburgh. Don't. A lot of very smart people. All get the hell out of here.
You can see it now.
I know what you're thinking. I'm making a movie about Pittsburgh, but not that Pittsburgh. This Pittsburgh. I came back to the Pittsburgh that's been called America's most livable city. The city that built America with its steel, from the Empire State Building to the Golden Gate Bridge. The city that cured polio and invented everything, from aluminum to the Big Mac. The Pittsburgh I came back to was a city of champions. Okay, so I get a little carried away about this place. But don't take it from me. Take it from America's foremost historian, who just happened to go to my high school, David McCullough.
And of course, among the many firsts of Pittsburgh, the first gas station, the movie theater, Heinz Ketchup, daylight savings time, bingo, a Ferris wheel, the first billion-dollar corporation, the first radio station, the first public television station, the Carnegie Library, the banana split, and the first and only whiskey rebellion.
Of course, all that was great, but Pittsburgh's celebrated past was cold comfort given its recent nosedive. In 2004, in its Hot Places to Live issue, Money magazine labeled Pittsburgh as not. Minneapolis was hot. How is that possible? It's freezing there. So I went to get the scoop from my friend, comedian Louie Anderson. We've grown up in the Twin Cities. We've known each other for
20 what?
20 years.
Is it just 20? I thought it was a little more, but 20. We met at a triathlon.
Yeah.
A marathon. Oh no, it was a bagel shop.
Thank you.
I think the difference between Pittsburgh and a lot of places is that in Minneapolis, I'll use Minneapolis, Pittsburgh was dependent on one industry. Minneapolis never was. I mean, come on, this was the place that made the steel for the entire world. That's a pretty arrogant place, right? What do? I make bridges for the whole world. That kingdom that was steel abandoned Pittsburgh. They never really cared. Like the automotive business, never really cared.
Well, I would disagree a little bit because this isn't Roger and me, it's more Mr. Rogers and me. The people did... Okay,
Can you believe that line? Can you believe that line? It's more, how long have you been waiting to fit that in? This isn't Roger and me. This is Mr. Rogers and me.
Okay, Louie was busting my chops again.
I'm not signing anything. You won't be able to use any of this.
But while he might have been skeptical about me making this movie, my wife Natalie was surprisingly supportive. We have gone through a lot of our savings living here in Pittsburgh. Not fancy, but just living. It just costs a lot. The taxes, as my accountant said, are higher here. And so why take this huge risk to make this movie? And you had said...
Because I'm behind it. I believe in this particular project enough to say, I think that it's worth the risk. I like to jokingly say that I find you, annoying and most of the time don't even enjoy the sound of your voice. And that if I would watch a 2-hour movie about you, who wouldn't?
That's my little lovebird. Always there with a kind word to boost my confidence. I met Natalie 18 years ago, and we fight every second. In fact, we had 5 therapists, and 5 therapists said, no chance, break up. The therapists have now broken up. We went to Demi Moore and Bruce Willis's wedding. They're divorced. We've run everywhere, and we've outlasted everyone. But it's not like Natalie ever particularly liked me.
I'm standing on a line that I once drew.
I never really met Natalie before, and I think she's, immensely, appealing and complex, and a wonderful foil for Carl. Carl needs a foil, and boy, she's a great foil for Carl.
I'm a parent first, and so my needs should come later, and that it's most important that I raise a quality person, and I don't feel confident raising one in Los Angeles.
That's my daughter. I personally didn't learn to ride a bike till I was 17 here in Pittsburgh. And the first time I rode it was a girl's bike, and I got mugged in East Liberty. And yet I somehow want my daughter to have this childhood. It's a very strange conundrum. I just hope my daughter would have a better childhood than I did. I first came to Pittsburgh because my parents split up. My mother had this habit of marrying doctors. My father was a doctor from Cleveland. My stepfather was a doctor from Pittsburgh. My first joke was, my mother never gets divorced, she just gets referred to another husband. After that marriage didn't work out, she supported my brother and I working as an actress. She was even in a George Romero movie.
Hungry wives.
My evening is free.
On a diet of men. Everything women could want out of marriage.
My brother followed in my mother's footsteps by becoming an actor himself.
I'll make you famous. That was stupid, Bill. Not everybody wants to make movies, Carl. Not everybody wants to be on front of a camera.
This is not about any of
You
this.
don't think this is about your little fishnicka? Your stuff?
I am an example of what happens with other people, I think.
I'm just trying to say, because Carl, you know, if you want to talk to somebody, I can get you a number. Think this is a good city to raise kids in?
It's a great city to raise kids in. I'm hoping she'll have a better childhood than I did, but you know.
What was wrong with our childhood?
Oh, we had a good childhood? My childhood in Pittsburgh was not pretty. I was a klutz in a sports town. I didn't even like the Steelers. I was a Vikings fan because their quarterback, Fran Tarkenton, could run away from the big guys.
Ow.
Unlike me. And the closest I came to the opposite sex was being beaten up by a girl. Mary Soderbergh pinned me to the ground and threatened to burn me with a cigarette if I didn't swear.
No! Say it! F-U-C-K! No! Say it! No!
I take credit for that. I didn't even smoke. That was the funny thing. I wasn't ever a smoker, but you know, you were just an easy guy to pick on. And I think that's still happening in a different way.
One day, my brother and I came home from school to find a moving van in front of our house. My mother informed us that she was leaving Pittsburgh to move to New York City to pursue her career as an actress. My brother and I were enrolled on scholarship at this 5-day-a-week boarding school in Pittsburgh. On Friday afternoons, when we couldn't visit our mother in New York, we used the dorm payphone to call our old neighbors to find a place to stay. One of those families, the Nassifs, owned the St. Elmo Hotel and gave me a summer job as a bellhop, where I'd meet a waitress from Pittsburgh named Lynn. I became infatuated with her and ended up writing a short story to impress her, which would eventually inspire the movie St. Elmo's Fire.
There are several quintessential moments in a man's life. Losing his virginity, getting married, becoming a father, and having the right girl smile at you.
I didn't get that girl, but I did get a career in Hollywood where I'd eventually meet my wife. And just like Lynn had inspired St. Elmo's Fire, Natalie was inspiring this movie. And so were my Pittsburgh neighbors. Well, they weren't just inspiring it, they were funding it. But frankly, I was never really movie star handsome, so I am more like your average American, I guess.
Hey, Carl.
Hi, Dr. Kratz.
How are you?
Nice to see you.
What is that thing?
That
you
looks
got a little
bad.
pre-cancer, yeah.
This one? Pre-cancer?
That one. I'm going to grab my staff to
okay.
get some liquid nitrogen, and then we're going to go ahead and treat you.
What the heck is that?
It's cool.
It's like the Munsters?
Yeah, actually, I can show you some cool tricks. Do you want me to show you the tricks I usually show the kids? You know, it's getting harder and harder to make a living in dermatology, so I do parties and stuff on the weekends.
The thing is in LA, when I had ideas about movies and TV shows, you know, and with St. Elmo's and other things I would do, I would pitch an idea, and then they would give us money. But
okay.
We're making this movie now, and in terms of capital and stuff, I know you had mentioned that you may be interested in.
Yeah, how much money do you need?
Well, you know, that's one of the worst things that I am, is asking for money type
Yeah,
of thing.
I know. Here, I'll help you. I don't have millions, but I'd easily kick in $5,000-$10,000 just to get us started. I think it'd be fun.
Well, would the 10,000 really? Would that be okay?
I mean, the other thing you can do is use me, you know, to guilt some of your other friends in. I mean, we live in a neighborhood with a lot of people with a lot of money, other than you.
But I had a lot of money when I came here. But the truth is, I'm now a professor, and you know, the professor, I make, you know, literally a fifth, because you know, there's very little chance of the movie ever making any money.
Remember, you told me that when you were going to make St. Elmo's, somebody told you, make it yourself, go find your father, get 20 of his friends, doctors and dentists, to each chip in, $20,000 and make your movie. And you chose not to do it, and so you made St. Elmo's with somebody else, and although it's yours, it's not really yours. This could be ours.
Remarkably, we did get the rest of the money from our Pittsburgh neighbors.
Okay, well, see me in 6 months, but I'll see you with the kids.
Okay.
All right, Carl.
Okay, thank you very much.
See you later.
But as our LA nest egg continued to shrink, Natalie's patience was wearing thin. And if this movie didn't work out, she had her own plans for me.
I have every intention of packing your bags in April of 2007 and shipping you off to an apartment. I have every intention.
Why?
Because that's where you need to work to make money.
Are you talking about divorce, or are you just talking about...
A commuter relationship.
So basically, you've put the time clock on the movie, April 2000. So you don't really want me to renew at Pitt, and even though I like teaching there and everything.
You're done in April of 2007. You take this product right here that we're doing, and you go back and you say to people, what do you think? And if they don't like it, you hurry up and you have 3 months to write a script. And it better be a good one. And then you sell that script, and end of story.
Well, there it was. And I don't have to tell you, my wife meant what she said.
Did you film the floor? It sucks.
It's a bad floor. You want to give me a kiss or no? Okay, there you are. Maybe I was crazy to think I could help Pittsburgh and myself with this movie. But there was one neighbor I could draw inspiration from. Fred Rogers came back to Pittsburgh and managed to change the world with a TV show.
Fred Rogers was working for NBC in New York. He said, I'm going to Pittsburgh, this new television station that started. He said, you're crazy. You're leaving this lucrative business. You know, look, we're mining gold here. And Fred left.
When Fred left New York for his hometown, he brought with him his wife, Joanne. You're in New York City. He turns to you and he says,
we're going to Pittsburgh. And what do you think about going to Pittsburgh? And, you know, when you're young and you're first married and you have each other, and that's enough.
As your wife said, you know, look at our daughter playing in the backyard. And, you know, look what we're working on, is what I say. And I don't know if this could have happened in any other city but in Pittsburgh.
His challenge was, try your best to make good attractive. And he said, that's probably the hardest assignment you'll ever have.
Okay, we'll put the film in picture and see how people make bass violins in a factory.
On the show, Mr. McFeely would bring Fred films of things that were made in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, many of those things are no longer made here. So I asked Mr. McFeely, what could Pittsburgh make now?
The steel industry is never going to come back the way it was. And everybody, I think, in some ways hopes that it does, but it's just not going to. What can we replace that with? What industry can replace the steel industry with that bring people back here? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe this film will be watched 50 years from now. That's what turned Pittsburgh around. You never know. You never know.
You're so optimistic.
Well, I think you have to be, because that's what's going to turn Pittsburgh around, some optimism.
He loved Pittsburgh, and he would be more than all right with what you're doing to say what Pittsburgh is about.
What was Pittsburgh about? And could it really come back as a city? In fact, the city had been part of one of the most important comebacks in American history. See that triangle? Whoever controlled that controlled the passageway to North America. So the British sent a 21-year-old major, George Washington, to guard the land. Unfortunately, he screwed up and accidentally ordered the shooting of a French diplomat, which set off a global war. So expensive was that conflict that the British had to tax their colonies to pay for it. But the colonies revolted, and by then George Washington had learned how to fight and would go on to lead the American Revolution. So no Pittsburgh, no George Washington, no George Washington, no America. We're here at Colonial Days at the Fort Pitt Museum. They're doing a celebration for the 250th anniversary of the French and Indian War, which I know means nothing to most people, but it's the war that made America.
Colonials learned from the natives, you hide behind a tree and shoot, and then if you get overcome, you run away.
How smart do you have to be to figure out, hey, we don't have to stand here while they're shooting at us? But that's something that we innovated right here in Pittsburgh. You want to shake his hand?
About that.
Yeah, that means
You can't kill Pittsburgh. If anything happened that Pittsburgh died as a city, the entire North American continent would shrivel, because this is still the heart of America.
Campbell?
One of the reasons people always wore hats was because people always had lice.
Thank you very much for telling me that now. That's really helpful. What year am I now?
1754.
And we would be literally, and the French are right here. It's not like, It's okay. Stand back, Campbell. I don't want to lose you. What's your best hope for what's gonna? If you
Me
could,
and you.
That's exactly what I think too.
The two of us sitting here talking now, standing here, exchanging ideas, and looking at each other as two people who have the same dream of giving something better to the children than we had when we were young.
And it wasn't just the beginning of America. 100 years ago, Pittsburgh was the richest city in the world, with more skyscrapers and millionaires per capita than New York City. Pittsburgh back then was the Silicon Valley of the Industrial Revolution, where Andrew Carnegie was the Bill Gates of his day. Andrew Mellon his Warren Buffett, where H.J. Heinz spiced up tables across this country with his ketchup, and George Westinghouse lit up America with his long-distance electrical lines. With all this new industry came jobs, which attracted immigrants from around the world. But in the last 50 years, with the decline of the steel industry, Pittsburgh had lost 250,000 jobs. In 1986, the U.S. Steel Homestead Works, which had helped Pittsburgh produce more steel in World War II than Germany and Japan, closed.
The steel was everything. Our whole life centered around the steel industry. It started in the latter part of the 70s, and I went out in October of '83.
The little plants are closing down, one by one they're closing down, and our town went down to nothing.
Well, you just never thought that the bottom was going to fall out like it did, you know? It was just that nobody ever figured it.
Joe Chiodo, owner of one of the oldest steelworker bars in the city, hangs memorabilia from his customers from the ceiling. How did it start? Where was the first bra from?
The first one was a young lady leaving town, and she wanted to leave something here as a memory, so that she left her apparel here. Then after that, continue.
We lose the young people. We lose the people, the blood of the country. You know, that's what we need.
And why do you lose that young people?
Well, they need jobs. They've got to have jobs.
There was another symbol for those who had left Pittsburgh. The terrible towel was created by sportscaster Myron Cope to excite fans during the 1975 playoffs.
Here go the Pittsburgh Steelers into the National Football League playoffs going up.
Ironically, the Steelers started to win just as the mills started to close. To this day, you still see the terrible towel waving in stadiums across this country. Unfortunately, those towels often belong to refugees who were forced to leave their hometown in search of employment, causing one of the greatest urban migrations since the Industrial Revolution. But wherever they go, these expatriates continue to think of Pittsburgh as home, congregating in Steeler bars across this country to form the Steeler Nation.
You know, I left Pittsburgh because we couldn't find a job. I graduated from Pitt with honors, and it was a year and a half I was still waiting tables at the Igloo Club down at the Civic Arena. And my friend who also graduated he went to Penn State, he calls me one day and he says, Dino, I'm moving to California. I says, pick me up.
I'd like to move back to Pittsburgh, I would. I'd like to raise a family there. I'd like to live there. I'd like to walk the streets that I know. I'd like to hang out with people that I care about. I just feel like when I'm in Pittsburgh, every little square inch of it and every person I meet just matters to me.
My heart is in Pittsburgh, for sure.
Okay, I know the Steelers won 4 Super Bowls, but that was 25 years ago. Why were Pittsburghers still so obsessed with football?
Yeah, Pittsburgh, baby! Let's go Steelers! Yeah!
Probably not the guy to ask.
Yeah, come on, buddy, buddy! Yeah, okay, here, how much do you want for the towel?
But I did know someone who would give me a straight answer.
Carl being on a football field is like, he might as well be in Kazakhstan or somewhere like that. This is foreign territory to Carl. Well, I was teaching at that time and coaching at Shadyside Academy. And Carl was a student. Carl was always the butt of some joke, getting hit with a water balloon, and so I always had to go and break it up and make sure Carl got back safely to the dorm he lived in. See, if you'd learned any of those wrestling holds I tried to teach you.
Why did you let them be so mean to me? Why was everybody so concerned about whether I could catch a football when I was growing up? What difference did it make?
Because had you been able to do any of those skills, you might have been able to protect yourself a little better from, somebody throws a ball at you, it didn't have to hit you in the face. You could have caught it.
Do people really jump over that thing?
Yeah, you're not going to try it, though. You'll
Why?
get hurt because you
Why?
can't do it.
I'm a grown man now. I'm not
trust me on
intimidated. I think it was all psychological.
Those who did get picked on in dodgeball took another branch, and they found out, dodgeball isn't for me. Catching a football isn't for me. Those beautiful young ladies in high school were not for me. So,
and because Sean could do this, he was able to have lots of sex in high school.
yes. Then there were beautiful young ladies that like artists. And see, so it all worked out, and it's really Pittsburgh that shaped that because it made you know what you could do and what you couldn't do.
The weird thing is I'm like, this town, we got the best team, but something's gone wrong.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm making this movie, is because I'm like, the show back to Pittsburgh. What a great city it is. It's like I was in high school. Pittsburgh is like this little, I can't do a pull-up, I can't get myself up. I'm like, Pittsburgh, shape up. You're the one who taught me. You taught me David McCullough. You taught Jeff Goldblum. I think you're absolutely right. You taught Jonas Salk.
That's right.
You created these people, and now you're sitting there, you're losing.
Yeah, there's a great paradox. Pittsburgh is a paradox. It's a town that wants to be what it once was, and it can't be. But it loved what it once was, and it still wants to be that. So they say, we want to grow, we want to do other things, but they rarely do it, because the fear of change.
My old gym teacher was right. Pittsburghers did seem to cling to the glory of their past, especially when it came to football. But was this obsession holding the city back? Okay, can I try you now once? Would you mind? Maybe it was time to toss that ball around with one of Pittsburgh's all-time sports heroes.
Good throw. Car.
In 1972, in one play, rookie running back Franco Harris helped redefine Pittsburgh as the city of champions.
And there's a collision. It's caught out of the air. The ball is pulled in by Franco Harris. Harris is going for it.
That play will forever be known as the Immaculate Reception. So you hear you're raising your son in Pittsburgh. You sent him to school. Does Swickley have a football team?
Nope.
No football team at Swickley. What did you think? Did you think, well, maybe we should send him somewhere else?
Oh, no. I know football wasn't going to be part of his life.
How'd you know that?
It just wasn't going to be. No,
What do you mean, like he was one and you tossed him the ball and he dropped it?
What's that?
I mean, I'm just curious. How did you know football wasn't going to be
No,
part of his life?
you can tell that, how far his athletic ability would go. Okay.
I'm sorry. This is so mean. No, I hope I'm not,
And he wasn't going to get a scholarship that way. There's no doubt about that. He wasn't.
Yeah, and I think he got into a really bad school, too. What school did you go to?
Oh, I went to Princeton.
Went to Princeton, yeah.
Well, I probably could have played football, but
But that's probably true. You might not remember this.
I don't really.
Okay, he went to Salvation Army, up the street, played some basketball, put them through drills. And he said, then I'm tired. I said, keep going. Attitude, keep going. And he turned around and said, I'm not going to be a ball player like you. Yeah. That was boom. You know what? That's it.
You didn't cry, or how old was he?
Actually, I think he's setting the story up because last time we played 1-on-1, I beat him.
Well, that's true.
And
No, really. But I'll be right out with it, that this guy is more of a chance of saving the city than if we catch a big touchdown, because if we bring our young people back like this, bright people.
But why do you need to separate it? We have to complete the circle. We can't say that just this part make it work, just this part make it work, because the city is just not one thing. I love it that we have the symphony here. I love it, the ballet here. And I just wonder why people do that at times, where they want to separate things, like to say, this is more important than that, this is more important than that. Whereas all of it combined is really what makes it work, what brings it all together.
While I was busy with this movie, my cousin Deborah offered Natalie and Campbell the chance to spend the summer in Los Angeles, dog-sitting for her boxer Moo.
This is where they film the Academy Awards, right here.
This This is Hollywood.
This is Hollywood.
I'm going to the park. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm going to the park. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Do you like driving around LA or do you like driving around Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh.
Why?
Because it's shorter.
Look, I would still live here if it weren't for Campbell. The novelty hasn't worn off for me. I thrive on being in the industry, reading the trades. I thrive. I love it. But it's adolescent behavior. It's not healthy. So there's a compromise that you have to make. There's no right place. You know, Pittsburgh is like, this is the way it is, this is the way it was, this is the way it will be. End of story. Here it's like, why? Why should I follow that? Why can't I do this, you know? I can be a stellar parent in Pittsburgh. I don't know how good a parent I can be here. I really am going to get preoccupied. But I think we're going to come back here. And I think I'm going to have to be a better person. And I think it's going to be very hard.
While Los Angeles and Pittsburgh would seem to have nothing in common, the LA of today has a lot in common with Pittsburgh of 100 years ago. Both were one-industry towns where immigrants came with dreams of a better life. Both towns paid great prices for their economic success. In Pittsburgh, it was the smoke. In LA, the traffic. Both towns were uniquely innovative. And as I soon discovered, Pittsburgh's innovation wasn't just in its distant past. Alcoa was an old-school manufacturing company founded 100 years ago. But during the 1980s, while the rest of corporate America was fleeing Pittsburgh, Alcoa was reinvented by Paul O'Neill. You know Paul O'Neill, the former Treasury Secretary of the United States, whose name is on your dollar bill? O'Neill transformed corporate culture by stressing the value of individual accountability.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Yeah. How you doing?
We met up with him at the diner where he has breakfast each morning at 5:30.
I think an important role for leaders is to articulate worthy goals for the people in the institution. If you articulate a goal for what this city should be a place where people come to get their medical care because they don't kill you here, right? They don't give you an infection you didn't really want. But one of the great things about our economy is that it does have this ability to renew itself. 25 years ago, and for sure 50 years ago, the rivers of Pittsburgh were used kind of as industrial sewers. It was for flushing out the waste from the manufacturing activity. You go look at those rivers now, and they've become the central attraction point for new investment. The people whose private wealth was exposed to the coal industry and the steel industry and all the rest of that got together and decided that they wanted something better for themselves and for their families, and so they banned the use of coal in the city of Pittsburgh.
Here it is.
Even though it was going to blast their own wealth, they did it because it was the right thing to do. I think people have forgotten the importance of political leadership doing things that are right for the people and kind of putting aside the considerations of maybe this isn't good for me individually.
In order to rid itself of its smoky image, city leaders had lured in ESPN's Bassmasters.
It's going to be very dramatic out there as we find out which 25 anglers stay alive to fish tomorrow for the money.
My brother and I decided we weren't going to just catch a fish. We were going to eat it.
Hi, Tom.
Hi there. What's your name?
Karen.
Karen, how are you?
Real good.
Karen's an ace here. We got the pro from
We're
Dover.
gonna need this, I can tell you that right off the
We're
bat.
gonna need that.
Oh, yeah.
So, Carl.
Yes?
So this is a very kind of complex little
You want me to
logistical
talk?
scene.
I was wondering.
It might have been interesting to give me like a goddamn heads up so we could like have some sort of a plan.
I thought, this happened kind of at the last minute.
I found out just moments ago that this was going to be, a complex multi-microphone, multi-people thing, and so I'm going to try not to get irritated. I'm going to try to just be the happy-booted camera person shooting people fishing.
She was born in an old Minnesota
Do these fish come up deep fried, or are we gonna have to do that?
Give him the worst rod, right? Give me the better rod.
I gave you both exactly.
Exactly. I said, well, he got the cute little spinner thing. That's okay. No, that's all right. If you think this one's good for me, whatever, I'll trust you. I'm trusting you. I have great skepticism that we're going to come out of a fish from these waters. Karen's an optimist. So. Ah! Ow! Ow! Oh my God!
So sorry.
Ow! Ow!
So sorry.
Ow!
So sorry.
That was close.
To what?
To me being killed.
You don't
I
get
could have
killed.
lost an eye.
You don't get killed.
Seriously. Go, here we go, fishing in Pittsburgh. Oh my gosh, look what we got. Oh my gosh, we got one. Look at that. Fishing in Pittsburgh. Oh my gosh. Ugh, I hate catfish. How do I hold them without them like flopping around?
Without, well, you can.
Okay. No. He can't like bite me or anything.
No, he has.
Oh, don't do that, Karen. Oh my
He
God.
doesn't have teeth. It doesn't hurt at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're skeptical, but there are fish in these waters, and I think we have lunch. Or it's I can't eat you. You're so nice. It's Finding Nemo in Pittsburgh. No, it's a catfish. Ah! Okay. Where do I put it now?
Put him gently in the water.
Wait. We're not keeping him? Well, what if we get nothing else, Karen? Ah! Oh, I'm sorry. Ow. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm bleeding. Ow.
Where the sting is, where
Yes.
the bite is, you're going to rub that on his belly.
What do you mean? Ow.
The antidote for the poison that's on there.
What are you with poison?
When you get stuck with that stinger, catfish have an irritant.
This would have been a good thing to say before I was only. It hurts, Karen. I can't pick it up again. I can't.
Okay. Rub your hand right
Rub
on
my
it.
hand through
Yeah,
the
right
bad
where
part.
right where the
Oh
bite
my
is.
God, this is so sick.
Yeah, right there.
Fishing in Pittsburgh, my friend. This is Bob O'Connor, a lifelong Pittsburgher who's running for mayor.
I live in the house my wife was born in. I consider myself one of the old-time Pittsburghers, a solid Pittsburgher, but I think we have to start believing in ourselves more. We brag about when we go out of town. People like me, when I go on vacation, I brag about Pittsburgh. When I come back, I complain. We have to stop that. Look at what a couple volunteers did in 2 months here. This was a mess 2-3 months ago. It was all hard work, dedication, people that wanted to do things for their community.
This city doesn't know how great it is, and that's what we're trying to. But I don't have to tell you guys this. You go around telling them.
If you put
we're
it
going
on
to show it
TV,
to
then
them.
we'll start believing in ourselves even more.
Well, I'm hoping. Well, we need a little comment. Oh, good. So we get something? I get free stuff. Oh,
I
great.
apologize. It's a medium.
Oh, thank you.
But that's
Officer
a good
Randy,
I'll work towards
That's a good.
this. Fishing in Pittsburgh, ladies and gentlemen. We just want you to know that the rivers of Pittsburgh are now clean. They tell us, although they said there is something about bottom feeders that they have to be worried about. But we are, for the sake of cinema, about to eat these fish. So to prove that the fish in Pittsburgh are good eating.
We don't want them to overcook.
You sure? Because, you know, if the mercury is a little overdone, I won't be that disappointed.
No.
Sure?
No.
Have you known anyone to die from eating a fish in Pittsburgh, or rarely?
No, I don't know of anybody that's been harmed by a fish.
Give it a taste, Carl.
Tom, I know we fought over the years.
No, you
I just
go.
want you to know.
Go ahead.
I really
Please.
do love you, and please, you can have all my CDs,
Don't worry about it.
and
Go
you know,
ahead.
you can have my power book, okay? Okay, here we go, Pittsburgh fish.
How is that?
That's good.
That's
A little like lobster.
I guarantee you there wasn't one fish that ever lived in that Mon River for all those years. Literally, not the worst bottom-feeding carp could not have thrived.
You don't think I'll end up on a...
No, I don't think you will. But we'll hold the table for you. You look a little pig then.
I'm a little, well, because, you know, in LA, I was constantly afraid of death. I moved back here and a strange thing happened. I feel like my life here, strangely, has more meaning.
I can understand that too. Here, you feel more of an individual. It's much less depersonalized, right? You're not just a part of a seething, uncaring humanity.
You know stuff about the symptoms of death. You've done a few autopsies. How many is it?
Me, I've done about 15,000.
15,000.
And reviewed, supervised about 35,000 others. Yeah.
So you know when something's dead. I guess it's pretty easy with the human body, huh?
Yeah.
You never got one that was partly alive or stuff? Is it pretty clear cut?
No, it's happened in a couple of other offices. Thank God not here.
Thank God not here. I guess thank God, or on the other hand, it's a pleasant surprise. But the question is are we do you think like my mother had said, oh, 10 years from now, there won't be a Pittsburgh.
I cannot tell you how painful it is for me as a Pittsburgher to have witnessed this insidious loss of population, loss of industry. During all the years that I grew up, we were the third largest corporate headquarters in America. You think about that, the third largest. New York, Chicago, and then came Allegheny County, U.S. Steel, Alcoa, Gulf, Westinghouse. I mean, you name it, they were all here.
The great thing about the city is it never changes. The worst thing about the city is it never changes.
Very well said, yeah. But, you know, most young people from families like this that go away to schools, they are not coming back to Pittsburgh, and that is killing us.
Only a few blocks from Cyril Weck's office, I came across another mortuary of sorts. Marty Warhol's scrapyard is a morgue for Pittsburgh's steel industry, and Marty's story emblematic of the Pittsburgh dilemma.
I kind of always wanted to leave, but you know, you kind of get stuck here with your family, and then you have children, and then before you know it, you're here for life. Well, but it is a great town. I mean, you can't beat the town for environment, in my opinion. It's just like the job section of it. I think it's a loser town. That's Andy's, Maryland.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. I took him a picture and told him to copy it.
Andy would be Marty's uncle, Andy Warhola, otherwise known as Andy Warhol. You wouldn't necessarily think Andy Warhol in Pittsburgh if you didn't know he was from here, but there's actually a lot that he knew, I think, came from just growing up and being here in Pittsburgh.
Working class Pittsburgh, if anyone was its champion, it was Warhol. Because these were all packaged products. I mean, the people who lived on the hills had private cooks. They didn't use canned soup or Brillo or tomato ketchup. And yet, what Warhol bespoke was working class America. Warhol was about change. Carnegie was about change. Salk was about change. And why are the people we celebrate that? And the problem is this is a city who, unless you get smacked upside the head, as that saying goes, they're not willing to embrace that change. People are frightened about it.
What do you think is going to be the happy ending for Pittsburgh?
Bring back the steel mills, for one. Let's keep the steel here. Let's quit shipping it out to these other countries. I want my steel here so that I can stay safe.
But the mills are pretty much gone, though. Don't you think that maybe
they can
there's
open it
enough?
back up again if they really wanted to.
Carl, I did these two pieces here, believe it or not.
Wait, you did those?
Yeah.
So
one is actually of my scrap pile. It's silk screen of scrap.
What do you think would have happened if Andy had stayed in Pittsburgh?
Maybe he'd have been helping my dad, selling produce still out of the truck. I don't know. I don't think he would have gone very far. That's just my. But then again, I can't say that because his mind was so great. I mean, he was destined to be great. I guess he probably would have. I just said two different things at the same time. I don't know.
If you're talented, do you have to leave Pittsburgh?
Well, maybe at a certain time in your career you do, because a secondary city, and maybe even now you'd have to say a tertiary city, can't provide what New York or Los Angeles can. But is that a bad thing?
Yikes. If Andy Warhol had to leave Pittsburgh, what chance did other creative types have of their dreams coming true here? And did it really matter to a city to lose people like this? While teaching at Carnegie Mellon University, Richard Florida wrote his book, The Rise of the Creative Class.
You're going to break.
I'm going to break.
Can't.
I am the world's worst pool player. Florida had identified cities with large creative populations, like Portland, Austin, Seattle, and Los Angeles, that were thriving, while older industrial cities like Detroit, Buffalo, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh were struggling.
He's a shark.
It's brilliant. Okay.
He's a shark.
I
Did you
swear
get
I was
that?
trying to hit.
That's
I
in
swear
the
that
movie.
was not.
In Pittsburgh, there's a whole generation of whatever we call the baby boom that left.
Shark. Hey, and you sunk one.
Pittsburgh, I see people 20 and 23 and people 63 with nothing in between. But I think the loss of that age group was a loss of a whole culture.
Wait, which? I'm solids? Okay, good. So if I get the single ball, that'll be its own miracle.
What folks in Pittsburgh have to understand is that these crazy, whacked out, innovative, creative, entrepreneurial people who don't want to fit in and act kind of strange, they're the people you got to bet on.
People in Pittsburgh, oh my God.
Who are creative people? An artist, a writer, a musician, a scientist, an entrepreneur. People who enact themselves through their work.
Actually, the Pittsburgh region had its share of creative people. Gene Kelly, Martha Graham, August Wilson, Shirley Jones, the Warner Brothers were just a few of those who had left here and found fame and fortune elsewhere. This sparked an idea. My neighbors and I got together and decided to stage the Steeltown Entertainment Summit to bring back a new generation of some of this talent to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
I just thought it was an incredible concept, the idea that the entertainment and arts industry could be the new steel of Pittsburgh.
Among those who came back were Rob Marshall, the director of the film Chicago, Eric Gold, the manager of Jim Carrey, and my friend, producer Bernie Goldman.
Well, I think there are a lot of states that are positioned to want to go after the film business.
But it wasn't just a reunion. Good things started to happen. Bernie met George Romero.
The ideas that you guys have of getting some sort of a real program going, particularly some sort of a training element, and also creating some material that's written and about Pittsburgh. You know, that's
if you don't know, in 1968, George Romero made one of the most successful independent films of all time.
I was like maybe 9 years old, and my mother woke me up and she said, "You're going to be in a movie." Then I came back to life and stabbed my mother and ate my father's arm. It was a blast. What's not to love?
Romero made a dozen other films in Pittsburgh, but it wasn't easy.
I have 2 projects right now that are set in Pittsburgh, but producers say, "Well, let's go to Prague."
Yeah. Later, I got a call from Bernie saying his company wanted to make George's new movie, Land of the Dead. And things weren't just looking up for my beloved city. See, there was someone else at the Steeltown Summit, Lynn Snyderman, the girl who inspired St. Elmo's Fire. I should mention, she's actually sitting here in this audience. No. And
really?
I now live 5 blocks from her. Can she stand up at all?
Okay. Smile.
Here we go. Wait, hold on, I should pop another certs in my mouth. But... Hi.
Hi.
I know this is silly. Look, I brought props. Hi, how are you? Nice. Thank you for doing that. You know, this is the whole Lynn Snyderman stalker file that I've been keeping.
All in a bag, right?
I don't know if you have a similar thing here, but no, these are all your letters.
No, the police have mine.
Yes. Very good. So, ironically, this is quite literally the scene of the crime, if I recall. I had never been to your parents' house, I don't think. And it was it's so embarrassing. I've never had to tell it in front of you. Do you know what happened? I had gone to the teacher and I said, "Do you think it's possible to write a love story so great that it would get a girl to fall in love with you?"
Okay.
And so...
I did not remember.
You did not know that?
This is 25 years ago.
I'm sorry. I mean, I couldn't help myself. But I don't want to encourage stalkers out there. Please seek mental help. This was the 80s, and this is not a good thing to do. I am not a role model here.
Right.
Can we go back to the living room for a second and I'll try to recreate the romantic moment we were almost in? As if this experience weren't humiliating enough, I decided to reenact a scene from the original short story of St. Elmo's Fire using Lynn's daughter and my intern. It's essential casting. I love when she plays with her hair. Do that whole thing. I'm obsessed with that part, if you don't mind. Do the tucking behind the ear. I'm sorry. Okay, I know this is sick. Well, that's the one big one. I'm sick is beyond belief.
So bizarre.
Rolling and action.
Carl, what is it you want from me?
I don't know.
Well, why did you come here?
Lynn, I've been madly infatuated with you for the past 3 years.
Can I say? I'm flattered.
Cut. That was great. That was so much better than us, Lynn. So the only thing I felt a little rushed on was I'm flattered.
I'm flattered was too quick. Because I'm flattered has been such a buzzword with us for 25 years that we probably ought to linger on it a little bit longer.
I don't really know you that well, but you seem like a fine person. And I want you to know that I'm flattered by all this.
You tasted quite a different life in Hollywood, and the fact that you made the conscious decision to walk away from that was pretty remarkable. and maybe pretty stupid, but I'm not sure yet.
Do you think Pittsburgh's dying?
No, but I do think it's sick. It can be resuscitated, but it needs a lot of good medical care.
I have to say, it is the craziest relationship, Lynn, but I thank you so much for doing that and going out. Only in my dreams.
Later, dude.
Even though Lynn thought Pittsburgh as sick as I was, its biggest industry now is keeping people alive. It all started in the 1950s when a young doctor, Jonas Salk, working with a team at the University of Pittsburgh, conquered polio. Unfortunately, Salk left Pittsburgh to open up the Salk Institute in California. But in the 1980s, Pittsburgh attracted another medical superstar, Dr. Thomas Starzl. We're here at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. A helicopter just went by delivering a transplant patient's vital organs. The man who pioneered transplants and made Pittsburgh the transplant capital of the world has an office here, and we're going to go visit him. Dr. Thomas E. Starzl, Transplantation Institute. This is one of the great figures of modern medicine, and here's his office. Easy. It's just me. Hi.
I like this office. They've been after me to move for years, but I refuse to go because I can bring my dogs to work here.
I know you had your choice between going to Los Angeles and Pittsburgh many years ago. Why did you end up choosing Pittsburgh?
I don't think what happened here could have really happened in any other city that I know. It was too daring. It was too dramatic. How frequently do the people in their moment of greatest sorrow say, let's help somebody else? That's a magnificent act, and it happens all the time here. I think we're going to go have to rescue our dogs.
I was going to say, would you mind if I throw them one of the Frisbees, or is it too far?
No, well, you probably can't get it that far. I can, but...
Well, would you mind if I...
I'll try. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. That is one throw.
Here goes that dog.
And if Dr. Starzl was healing bodies, there was a man across town who was healing minds. Bill Strickland won the MacArthur Genius Award for helping inner-city youth through the Manchester Craftsmen's Guild. Can I help of any way?
Why don't you make the movie?
Okay, it's fine. I'm trying to. I got nothing to do. I got hired good people. That's half the battle. Before you had this whole center, what were you doing?
I was in a row house, living in a sleeping bag, dragging kids in off the street to save their souls with clay. And as the kids walked by, I grabbed them and says, hey man, free clay, come on in. And that was the genesis of Manchester Craftsmen's Guild, was that experience, because I figured out through trial and error, kids were fine. And this whole center is built on that assumption that the kids are fine. You have to put them in a nurturing environment. You got to give them sunlight and orchids and free clay and enthusiasm, and you can cure what's troubling them every day of the week. That's why in 22 years of operation, we've never had a police call or a fight or a racial incident or a drug incident. The place is all glass, and we never had a problem. Everybody's cool, man. People are smiling, kids are getting along. Oliver High School is 4 blocks from here. Steel doors, armed guards, and metal detectors, 4 blocks from where we're sitting. Same neighborhood, same kids. Now, come on, man. Everybody's sort of saying, well, we'll sit around long enough, the mills will be back, and it's going to be A-okay. It ain't coming back, man. We got to create a whole new paradigm for the way that we view the world and the way we view ourselves. Yesterday, preferably.
By the way, what do we make now? Do we know what we're making? Or?
It's a bowl.
It's a bowl. No, it's a beautiful bowl. I like it. It's good.
I have welfare mothers growing Phalaenopsis orchids. Now, if that's not rebirth and reconstitution, then you tell me what is rebirth.
And the students get to participate in...
They grow the product. It's part of their training. And all the money comes back to support the education program. It's the perfect circle.
Even Bill Strickland could not achieve his dream without the support of a woman who'd spent much of her life helping Pittsburgh. For many, Teresa Heinz Kerry is known as the wife of Senator John Kerry. But in Pittsburgh, she is known as Saint Teresa for the millions of dollars she has given to the community.
Oh, hi, I'm Teresa Heinz.
Hi, very
How are
nice.
you? Nice to meet you.
Can I give you my wish list?
From me or from whom?
This is from me. Do you know what COPIA is in Napa Valley?
Yes.
Yeah, so COPIA, mandatory national service, no gambling, and universal health care. I just thought
I've been working on that.
Okay.
What did you think of Pittsburgh the first time you came here?
Well, it was my husband, you know. I came as a young bride.
When she met her first husband, he told her that his father Henry made soup. That was quite the understatement.
After all, they carry my grandfather's good name. That's my name, too, Henry J. Heinz.
Oh, look at all those cheeses.
This is my favorite place. I've gotten about 15 pounds heavier from Pittsburgh since I moved back. I'll buy you some mozzarella. That would be my treat.
Do you have any good goat cheeses?
Little Caprice. No cow.
I'll take some.
Can we get two of those, one for me and one for her? I'm going to take one home to my wife.
Thank you.
How much would you like, dear heart?
Give me a good chunk. I'll take one of those. Do you have blue Cheshire? Racino. It's a wedge, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I like it, but it's hot.
That's what I was hoping you could do.
I'll take one of those. I'll take the reserve. I'll take some. Carolina,
Thank you,
Carolina.
thank you.
Andiamo. Andiamo.
Thank you very much. Because we're cheese lovers.
Oh, I love cheese.
Now, I was going to buy you the cheese, but I'm going to buy these cheese.
No. You
now,
can
let
buy
me buy
those
my
too.
stuff for a relatively low-budget film. I thought you were gonna do that.
No. I went shopping.
I didn't think she'd order that much cheese. I almost thought, there goes the budget right there. I should have picked up the cheese. I mean, you know, I bought her the one I said I'd buy her, but I didn't know she was going to buy $143 worth of cheese. In 1991, Senator John Heinz died in a plane crash. Teresa chose to remain in Pittsburgh to raise her 3 sons and run the Heinz Foundation.
My late husband used to say that a problem is only a solution waiting to be found. So he looked at problems as opportunities to be inventive, to make things work better even if they were still working.
This was the American dream. So why do you think they stopped dreaming? That's what I get confused about.
Well, lots of things make you stop being revved up. One is affluence. Another one is the opposite. Depression, economic depression.
What do you think the dream should be for Pittsburgh right now in this?
We don't know. But I think we do need an infusion of dreamers that are coming here for the first time, because it's contagious. Dreaming is contagious.
Sometimes it seemed like it would take a miracle for Pittsburgh's dreams to come true. And did miracles happen in Pittsburgh except on a football field? I decided to ask Sister Linda Yankowski, who runs a home for displaced children. In 1984, their dorms burned down.
The fire was a turning point for us here at Holy Family Institute. I mean, we were devastated. Everyone said, you need to rebuild. And with the help of the community, we did. So in the long run, it was a blessing.
It seems not too hard for people here to have faith in the Steelers. It seems pretty hard for people here sometimes to have faith in themselves. First of all, does Pittsburgh even need saving?
The true meaning of salvation is freedom, to love others and to be able to risk. So if we've lost the ability to do that as a community, then we do need salvation. We do need the opportunity to be freed from whatever it is, old style of being, old ways of doing work. I mean, the steel mills aren't going to come back. There are no neon signs in heaven or in the sky. I think that you go with it, and God will go with you.
Even if I'm Jewish?
Yeah, especially if you're Jewish. I think God spoke to you folks first, and I think the promise is there for us all.
I got a call from Bernie, telling me that even though he and George wanted to make Land of the Dead here, economics were forcing them to go to Canada.
It's just crazy. This whole week's been crazy. I spent this entire week trying to get the George Romero movie, which was written and set here in Pittsburgh. George Romero, our great regional asset, the only guy who successfully made movies for millions of dollars here in Pittsburgh. He's made 15 movies. And my friend Bernie Goldman from Pittsburgh gets him the money to make his next movie, and they're going to shoot in Canada.
In the end, even the dead left Pittsburgh.
Johnny, help me! Oh, help me!
Maybe I needed a reminder of the life I'd given up. So I went to join Natalie in LA for a few days.
Listen, I got to talk to you seriously about something. Yeah. And that is that I'm not going to go to LA. Yeah, I'm not going to go to LA.
Well, can I talk to you about it as opposed to?
No.
I was having a good life before this, and I don't know. Uh-oh. Hey, Nellie, what happened?
She's pooping?
Okay, I told you she poops, honey.
No, she's never pooping.
Well, she's pooping. Let's go back home. We're gonna get going.
No, she didn't.
No, she just peed.
I don't want a dog. You guys want a dog. I'm not.
I know, but you know.
Cats don't need a walk.
Yes,
cats don't need a walk.
I know, but
they
who
poop
needs
in a
cats? I
basket.
don't like. Yeah, but I'm a manly man. I like a dog.
I wanted to talk to Bernie about what had gone wrong with Land of the Dead. We had known each other since the 80s, when he had talked me into doing a reality show about driving across country on a dime. He told me I was going with a beauty queen, but at the last second, he made me go with my mother.
Mother, please stop it. You're getting me.
If a son and a mother could get divorced, we'd get divorced at the end of this trip.
I'm walking up here, I'm going like, maybe I'm just an idiot. I should never have left LA. Look at the city. It's beautiful every day. I walk up here, it's peaceful. You got community. Why did I leave? It's a movie about an idiot.
Is the movie going to be about you? Does it have to be about you?
Good, I should have
It
had
is
it
going to
right.
be about you.
Frankly, if you can get one thing to work in Pittsburgh, you know, Mr. Rogers worked, and they just didn't build on it more.
But I think that's naive to think that, like, oh, we're going to get one thing to work, like one TV show or one movie to work, because it's not about that. I mean, the economics of a city are much more complex. If you can create an industry that interests young people, then people move there, they buy houses, they start businesses, their children stay there. You know, I think it's got to be a much larger effort than that.
You think it's ironic that even the dead left Pittsburgh? You think that's a sign?
You like that line.
I'm trying to get it in somewhere, Bernie. It's as close as I can get it.
To get a fresh take on my situation, I went to see some of my old friends who were still working in the entertainment business.
Hi, neighbor.
Hello. Well, I thought you were crazy for moving to Pittsburgh. It seemed like the craziest thing in the world, because why would you go? I mean, you had a beautiful house, you had an incredible daughter, and you know, she was in a good school, and your career was going along, and you had money, and I didn't understand it. It seemed obviously like you were sort of chasing your childhood.
Not fitting in actually makes you fit in here. It's a strange upside-down world where everything that hurt me now became art and gave me a living, and so it was like, oh, isn't this great? But the problem is then you try to fit into that world.
It depends on which LA you live in. You chose to live in a particular Los Angeles where that was important. I think Christopher and I kind of fled from that, and we moved to a part of town where we are anonymous and we can kick leaves, and our friends aren't necessarily in the business, and there are a lot of different ways to live in this city, which I think is one of its strengths.
I like teaching, but I also like making things. And I realized ultimately, but maybe I could make things in Pittsburgh. But more importantly...
Well, that may be because what you're trying to do, okay, what you're trying to do, and pardon me for saying this on your movie, okay, you're trying to recreate what you had here back there, and it doesn't work. Life's a marathon, and the people who reinvent themselves are usually those that have the fullest life.
I'm really terrified.
Why are you so terrified?
I don't know. There's something very terrifying about this.
This is the house you were born, Campbell.
This was our old house. And this is where you first rode your Barbie Jeep. And do you know who laid those? Uncle Norman laid those concrete pavers right there.
Ready?
Yeah.
You don't want to ring the bell?
No,
huh?
I don't. I'm too
Sure?
nervous. Yeah. Too nervous.
Why are you so nervous?
I don't know.
I know this is a house that you put a lot of love into.
a nice thing.
Hi, Nate there.
Hey, Carl, how are you?
Thank you so much for letting us in.
Hi.
This is the woman who...
I'm a nervous wreck.
Dear, come on in.
This was your room. And this right here is where your crib used to be. And those were your closets where I had your clothes, and I had a sewing machine sitting right there.
Remember, Campbell, do you remember when you were a baby in here?
She doesn't remember any of it.
This is where we used to change you, Campbell. And do you remember this fondly in here, or...? I'm as confused as ever now because Natalie, I can see how obsessed and how much she loves this house. And I don't know what she'll say, whether she'll say, oh, we should never have sold it, or oh, we should move back, or I just don't know. Ready? Okay. Ready?
Don't get wet! He's always going to be doing something. He doesn't know not how to work 24 hours a day. He doesn't know. There's a chance that people will call him on it in Pittsburgh. There is no chance that anyone will ever call him on it here. He could work 36 hours a day here, and that would be fine by LA standards. He's like, well, everybody else does it. Yeah, everybody else does it, but it doesn't mean it's right.
And you saw our old house, and now in another week you're going to have to go back to Pittsburgh. You think we made the right decision?
If I say no, what's going to happen?
I think people will still respect you. I mean, listen, I have to say, it's not an easy call. I mean, I think that, well, you tell me.
There's nothing that I don't like about Southern California except you.
Well, thank you, honey. That's a love story that people come to a beach and a movie to see. So if I go back to Pittsburgh, you'll stay here with Campbell?
No. They always say that authentic life, and I just don't think you can do it here.
Well, ironically, they was being Oprah who said that when I was on the show. A very wise woman, Oprah, I guess. I think maybe I should forget even this movie and just, you know, live my life, spend more time with Campbell, let Pittsburgh be whatever Pittsburgh will be. It's not my job to save it. Spend some time with my wife and family, and then call a wrap. Is that right, honey?
That's a perfect ending.
Do you think it is, honey? Of course it wasn't a wrap. I didn't know it yet, but before I could come to terms with Pittsburgh's future, I had to confront my own past.
Did you ever know any grown-ups who got married and then later they got a divorce? Well, it is something that people can talk about, and it's something important. I know a little boy whose mother and father got a divorce. And those children cried and cried. You know why? Well, one reason was that they thought it was all their fault. But of course, it wasn't their fault.
Your mother will be surprised to see us. Is that Mother? I guess Mother.
Dude, I think you'll likely recognize her.
I'm gonna go. Mother, welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
How was the bus ride?
It was wonderful.
Okay.
Do you remember Squirrel Hill?
Yes. My first home in Pittsburgh was in Squirrel Hill.
Yeah.
I think that's what scared me about Pittsburgh when I came here.
What is it?
It's dark.
It's dark, masculine.
Yeah, kind of rugged, secretive. There's more secrets, shall I say.
Is there anything you want to share with us
No,
now?
I certainly don't.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
My brother and I took my mother to get her hair and nails done at what we thought was the salon next to our old apartment. Oh my God.
Is this it, Carl?
This is our apartment.
Is this it?
I cannot believe that this is our apartment. This is the house I grew up in. I cannot believe that. When I first moved to Pittsburgh, were you surprised that I moved to Pittsburgh after 20 years of being away?
I thought, isn't that just the way it is, you know, ironic that of all the cities you could have picked to go back to was my least favorite one in the world, which I was so happy to be disconnected with. Richard and I had a final blow up, and I just left. I was hurt one time too many, and that if I had any pride left, I had to go on with my life.
When you left this apartment, the Nassifs down the street took us in on the weekend, and when we couldn't go to New York City on the Greyhound bus, it was the people here in Pittsburgh who actually picked up the slack and said, oh, don't you think on some level? They said, hey.
Yes, and I think that, you stood on your own 2 feet here in Pittsburgh without your mother, and even though it seemed like, oh, my mother left me and I'm only 17 years old, there's a lot of people that came to this country when they were 17 and started whole worlds, because maybe people have to be on their own. The earlier the better. When you're forced into it, you find that you can survive. You got that job with the Nassifs. You got acquainted with them. I didn't even know them.
They who own the St. Elmo Hotel, which led me to running St. Elmo's Fire.
That's right.
It all works out. Sometimes your worst times turn out to be your best times. If you had never left, I would never been a bellhop at the St. Elmo. I wouldn't have met Lynn Snyderman, written the short story which became the movie, and then I wouldn't have been able to get my wife, Natalie, as my gym teacher points out. So maybe the worst of Pittsburgh is actually going to lead to change and be this great city again like it was 100 years ago.
I hope so. For everybody's sake.
But the weird thing is, does place really make a difference? Does me being in Pittsburgh mean I have to give up my dreams of being in what you call the big time? Suddenly, do I need to go back to California where they're going to value me? I mean, I guess that's the big question.
Well, I think that you moving to Pittsburgh only gave you the freedom of this, because there's a lot of security.
We have a guest visitor here.
Oh my goodness, there is Richard.
Richard.
How did he know that we were going to be here under this tree?
You look wonderful.
Thank you. Well, my son had me beautified all day. This is the Richard. This is the man that drove me out of Pittsburgh into New York. See?
How are you?
Fine. The great love of my life.
Hey, this was not planned, right? You just walked into this. This is the Pittsburgh
thing. See, on the street where you live, he still walks by the apartment where we live.
Every day. Now, I know interpersonal relationships are difficult, but we've overcome that, and it's through you and Tom. Really.
Yes.
That's it.
Raindrops are falling on my head.
Don't forget my suitcase on the other
I'll get your suitcase, Mother. Watching Richard and my mother together made me realize that it was my tough childhood in Pittsburgh that made me who I am. Maybe Pittsburgh's tough times would lead it to its own rebirth.
What are you doing?
And when I looked a little bit closer, I could see it was already happening. The hottest company in the world was trying to get a group of talented graduates from Pittsburgh's universities to move out to California. But the would-be recruits refused to leave because they like living in Pittsburgh.
We're not too stupid. We eventually got the message that if we were going to be able to hire these people, we were going to have to open an office here in Pittsburgh.
Google announcing today tells the whole world we're moving to Pittsburgh, not because we just like the standard of living there or the low-cost living, it's because we have the talent here.
And remember Dr. Starzl, the guy with the paper sign on his door? Well, today they were dedicating the Thomas E. Starzl Biomedical Tower.
From time to time, we all need reminders that giants still do sometimes walk among us.
And Franco's son, Doc? Well, he was recognized as Entrepreneur of the Year in a national competition.
If people can go out and explore and then bring their talents back, and that's a win-win for Pittsburgh too. But as you said, we have to find a way to bring them back. As you said, bring the talent back. So people, the talent, come on back to Pittsburgh.
If all this wasn't enough, after 25 years, Pittsburgh was once again becoming the city of champions as the Steelers won their 5th Super Bowl.
I hope no one gets hurt. Okay, great. Thank you. I guess this makes it a city, as Franco said. Would it be complete without this?
Remember that guy, Bob O'Connor, who was running for mayor? He won, and he kicked off his term with the Super Bowl parade. On that day, Pittsburgh recaptured its lost population as 250,000 happy fans came together downtown to show their pride in the city.
It's like hitting the lottery for $100 million. Couldn't buy this. It's the greatest thing, greatest feeling I've ever had.
Join with me and sing the Steeler cheer.
Even the dead were returning to Pittsburgh.
My mother said, "Why are you going there? It's a dead town." And tonight it is a dead town, but...
It was a triumphant homecoming for George Romero. But like him, I too realized I had to leave Pittsburgh to finish my film. Okay, see you, Pittsburgh. Here we go.
The reason we came was because you had unfinished business, and you could have gone to years of therapy and not come as far emotionally or as a man as you had to here. And I think that, you know, yes, it cost us $350,000, but the other thing would have been, you know, 2 houses in Los Angeles because we would have been divorced, or midlife crisis and an illegitimate child, or, you know, I mean, no matter what, it would have cost us $350,000.
Listen, it's been fun, and I have to say, my favorite thing is that I'm actually taking my cameraman, Mark Nabil, to LA. If there's nothing else that's been accomplished, a year ago he wouldn't go with me, and he called me an inexperienced director, and I was so flattered because I said, I'm directing this?
Do you have your glasses? Do you have your phone?
Yes, I have.
Do you have your computer?
Sure. Will you mail me everything? Yes, I'm sure. I've got everything I think I have.
And please call at least once a day because Campbell really is, you know, she needs you.
And please, and I put the insurance policy in case something happens on the plane. Make sure they finish the movie if I go. And you can bury me in these clothes. It's fine.
It'll make a lot more money if you die.
Thank you. I know. That's very good.
So you made St. Elmo's with somebody else, and although it's yours, it's not really yours. This could be ours.
I think we do need an infusion of dreamers because it's contagious. Dreaming is contagious.
The most important thing, always be happy with whatever you make.
There is hope after despair. There is life after death. There is some reason to trust and to believe. And I think the promise is there for us all.
Fred would come back from trips all over the country and he would say, "Oh, we have such wonderful neighbors out there. We're much more the same than we are different."
Okay, so we're back in Los Angeles, and the question is will there be people there 24 hours from now? Will anyone from Pittsburgh actually show up on a Sunday for no other reason than just to say, hey, we're from Pittsburgh, and we want to say, even though we live in Los Angeles, Pittsburgh in some ways is still our home. And I'm petrified, you know. I can't tell you the number of times in LA where somebody said to me, hey, I love you, baby, we're gonna have lunch, we're gonna be there. And then I sat there at the restaurant and sat there, and then I got a phone call from their assistant saying, oh, we were gonna come, but got a better offer. So I'll be curious to see whether anyone shows up or not. Everybody please come on down. Thank you all so much for coming. We are going to first, we're gonna take a photo of the Post-Gazette. So your mothers and fathers and your cousins can all see that you're still a Pittsburgher in some way.
We love Pittsburgh!
Okay. I was trying not to mention the Steelers or anything to get those cheap applause, but thank you.
We're ready for take one. Okay, let's do the song.
Okay, ready?
The dancing part, so come up and join in.
Won't you be my neighbor?
There you go.
Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you be my neighbors? Be free.
Natalie and I had learned what Mr. Rogers had always known, that there are good neighbors everywhere. But it was my Pittsburgh neighbors that helped me to dream again. There's no Hollywood ending here, but we're betting big on a new Pittsburgh beginning.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor? My neighbor? I'm glad we're back together again.